And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I'm Aaron Micah Johnson, the pastor here, and also at King James Bible University. And today we're going to be taking an interesting look, and it's mainly for the people in biblical law, but we're letting other people pick in to where you can see kind of the construction and the framework on how things goes, and give some people an understanding on how you can actually go through the Bible and understand things in a different way. So you'll be looking at that. We will be taking a closer look on something that was presented to them that they need to take care of. So we're going to be looking at that in 1 minute. And what I want to do is make sure we got these other things set up real quick. But what I do want to make sure of that we do have the Bible that actually is coming. And many people, we had some emails where people is sitting there, they looking for certain pricing, and it's no certain pricing based on what would actually be going out. So with that, we do have prices set. They no longer set at the $250 where the investors was putting in, but now it's at a more higher rate. What people have to do. So if you're looking to purchase one right now, we actually gonna try to match what we have some other companies actually putting them out at when they start selling them. So we will have these going out at about the same price at $500 starting with, but they're going to be going up to $750. So if you want to get one early, make sure that you put in that request. So as soon as they go on sale, to make sure you can get one. Everybody who's has already paid for it, that's the ones where they already invested on, to where they will be receiving the book at the price for the investment price that they paid. So they will be receiving one. We have some people bought more than one, which they might be giving out or they might be selling them. I'm not sure how some might be doing it or how some might be taking it. So keep your eyes peeled out, and we will also try to assist people on some of the sales, because we will be selling them here, as well as we'll try to keep people abreast to try to make them available for you if they are here and available at the time that you need to do it. So one of the things we want to do right now, we want to sit there and see how we have one problem here. I'm trying to sit there and see something. We're trying to make sure something is going through. I want to move this over. Why it's not going back to that? And there we go. So what we're looking at is Moses and Job, and that's what we had asked them about, on what they need to be correlating and how these correlate together. So I will be asking you questions based on what's going on, but then I'm going to be showing you some techniques which should be used as you move forward to doing this homework, to make sure that you can present in a more biblical law way on proving what is going on with the correlation with these two. So I really want to get a quick count real quick. And all the ones who is part of biblical law, I want to make sure that most of you guys are here. So all the ones that's part of biblical law, and the ones that I'm asking to do the equation, and there's only a few of you guys, the one that's supposed to be doing the equation on Moses, and what I asked you to do in Numbers chapter 12, verse 1 and 2, if you can actually just let me know through an I, because it only should be a handful of you guys. It's not. I know it's no more than about 8 of you guys that's doing this. So I'm just going to wait to see what's happening. So we just want to wait to see what's happening. And Let's see, we just trying to wait to see. We are trying to wait to see and get those there. So as we get those, we sit there and see what we have. So we just waiting on these, and we have only, it should be only a few of you guys. It shouldn't be many. So we sit there and we see, so what we're going to do, we're going to move forward on it. So the ones who's not part of that, they should go back. And then we have some people who's not part of it. They're still saying aye, and they're not actually part of it. Because we have quite a few people who is not part of the. You part of the biblical law, but you're not part of what we're asking for with numbers. Is what I'm saying. We have more people who actually. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna stop that because we have some people in here saying they part of that, and they actually are not. And this is what we don't need to have there. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna pass that. We're gonna pass that because I see a few people putting in there that they part of that numbers, and they actually are not part of numbers. And we want to make sure that the people that's part of it, because I have questions that I was going to be asking. So besides that, we're going to change that because we have quite a few people who saying they part of it, but they actually are not. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to push that out, because we don't want that to be pushed over to what we're looking for. Because our main thing is we want to make sure everybody is upfront about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to push forward on. But we have some people who can try and seek in what we need to do. So what we're going to do, let me pull the Bibles up, and we're going to start taking a close look at what we need to do. So what we're doing, we're looking at this, and we're looking at Job 1 and 6 that you'll see right here. Job 1 and 6 that we're looking at right here. And what we have to do, we have to find out this comparison that's going on with Job 1 and 6 that's being compared to Numbers 12:1 through 10. And I want to see how this is actually going to be constructed together. That's what our point is, and this is what our focus is supposed to be. So how we're going to do that is a couple of ways we're going to make sure this can go through. So let me see here. 1 second. Let me get some things set up. Let me get a few things set up. And so now what we're going to do, we're going to start right here. And we're looking at this here. It says, now there was the day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also. So this is the basic of what we're using. This is the basic, what we're using. So this is the rule. I'm going to explain rule to you in a minute. But the rule, you're going to hear me using that term a lot as we go through here. And we see over here, and I'm going to read this one over here. It says, Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. And they have said, and they said, have the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it. Now, the man Moses was very meek and was above all men, was upon the face of the earth. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses, unto Aaron, and unto Miriam, come out, ye three, unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And those three came out. The Lord came down in the pillar of a cloud and stood at the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and I will speak to him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all my house. With him I will speak mouth to mouth, even apparently. That's another issue within itself. And not in dark speeches. In the similitude of the Lord shall he be remembered. Wherefore, then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against him and departed. And the cloud departed off the tabernacle. And remember, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam and remembered she was leprous. Now this is what's going on. So we have to look at the application of what's happening. So we want to look at a couple of things as we go through this and really see what's going on. And if this guy, whoever you want to call this, 1968, if he put in one more of those little dumb comments, I want you to make sure that you just hide that fool from the chat completely. If that idiot, that 1968, if that idiot put in one more thing in there, I want you just to hide that idiot from the channel. So that's, people like to come here, and same thing is they can go to other places and they can do all this stupid stuff, but I'm not here to play games over here where you sit there and push your ideology and your stupidity. I'm not here for that. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at this a little bit closer, and we're going to see the differences. So we want to look at the rule. We want to understand what the rule is, and we want to understand how this is going on. And the same thing is what we're looking at. And a couple of things just before we get started, because I see some people coming in from other areas. So the reason why you see shalom taken out, shalom is a Yiddish thing. Shalom is not part of Scripture. Nowhere in the Bible you can never find it. So why you use it? That's why they deleted it. So these are the things that people invent, and then they try to make it known. We don't use that here, so that's why you see them take it out. That's one reason it was removed, because we don't accept shalom. We don't accept using salutations coming in that is not part of Scripture. So we don't use it. So it's no disrespect, my bad. No disrespect. And that's going under Brother Enoch. It's no disrespect, but we just saying, just to have educated better, we just trying to let you know those things is not being used. But you can look all through Scripture, you'll never see shalom there, ever. But that's something that's invented, that people put in there, and now people try to sit there and make sure that this is part of Scripture, and that's not the truth. They'll try to tell you whatever they want to tell you. You'll never find it in Scripture, ever. But you will find shalom there, and that's the salutation that is being used. So now let's look at something. So we're looking at the Job 1:6, but we want to look at the issue. So we want to find issues. So we need to find the issues of this. So now what I want to do, I want you to sit there. I want everybody to get a piece of paper, because we're going to go through something, and I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. I want to sit there. I want to highlight this. I want to highlight it to where we, let me see. If I can, I'm just going to, there we go. So it still won't let me take it out. Okay. No, it still won't let me take it out. So I'm not going to worry about that. But I want everybody to sit there. I want you to highlight Satan, because Satan is the issue. Satan attempted to put blame on Job's imperfection. That's what he was seeking to do. He was looking to put blame on Job's imperfection, but then we have to look at the rule. The rule is Satan is known for. He's known as an accuser. He presents himself before JEHOVAH to challenge the righteousness of Job. That was the thing. So we want to keep all these things in the back of our head, but it's better to write them down, because we're going to be going through here, and we're going to start tearing everything down to show you how you can pull other scriptures, other references, to understand more so what was happening. So we got to remember that Satan, he sit there and he was looking at that Job's piety is due to his blessings and not his faith. So that was the thing, because he was sitting there saying, do not God do for naught. So we're going to sit there and see this, and this is why he said in verse 9, he said, Satan answered and said, do a Job fear God, he desired God for naught. That was part of the issue. And we got to see how this works. We got to see how this more so works. Because now we see this accusation is got to test the faith of the integrity in saying Job supposedly is a follower of Christ. Supposedly a follower of Christ. Now, one thing you got to remember is two things. We're going to look at this in Deuteronomy 6:16. This is one that you remember, and this is a foundational law that we can remember. So it says, ye shall not tempt the Spirit of your God as ye tempt him in Manasseh. So we want to understand what all this is. We understand what all this is. So we don't tempt the Lord. I want to make sure everybody get that understanding. We do not tempt the Lord. So the same thing is, now we want to look at something else. We want to look at the same thing with Miriam and Aaron. Miriam and Aaron, they challenging Moses' authority and the consequences of that. So we have to sit there and see that. So the same thing is, we're going to go over here and we're going to look at this side. And it's telling you another thing here. It says, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. I want you to keep these in mind. Keep them in mind, because Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses, and this is a legal thing that where they was having the issue. So we're looking at what the issues and the legal problems that they was running into and what they was violating. So we're going to look at this in Leviticus chapter 19, but we're going to pick it up at verse 18, and it tells us right there, thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge. You see that there, any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love the Lord, thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Spirit of God. So now we see the legal issues in what was going on with over here with numbers. I want to make sure everybody understands that. So the same thing is, I want people to see what's happening, see what's going on, understand how this is going on, so everybody understands thus far, because it's going to get a little bit hairy in 1 second. So I want to make sure just put an eye if you truly understand it, because it's going to get a little hairy. And because what we're going to do, we're going to go through a legal process to understand how you understand this and how we're going to move through. So right now we got everybody really understanding. That's good. We got everybody pretty much understanding it. So so you seeing now what's going on. So don't worry. I will later. I see an end there, so I will later. I see a couple of ends now. So some of the ends, don't worry. I'm going to go into Zoom to where we can clear that if need be. So the same thing is, we're not going to, I want to see the ends, but we're going to sit there and clear that, because we're doing an open thing to where we can help everybody else out. So don't worry. I see a few ends coming up, so we will go back and we'll clarify it. We will clarify that. And what happened in here is, when we're looking at Leviticus 19:18, we have to look at this to see this is the lack of the principle. This is lacking the principle of Miriam and Aaron actions, meaning this. The same thing when we look at the Job's trial exemplifies the righteousness is tested by an adversary, meaning the imperfections that are often imposed, that by the external accusations rather than eternal faults. This is what's happening. So he's sitting there, and what's being really challenged is his external accusations rather than his eternal faults. Let me show you what I mean by that, to where we can understand. He's sitting there, he's telling you that he said, do a Job fear God for naught, because he's seeing Job what he does here. It says, and when the days when their feasting is gone about, that Job sanctified them and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them. For Job has said, maybe that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their heart, and Job does continually, meaning he was sacrificing animals. He did this externally. This was doing externally, not internally. And that's what actually caught up Satan. So that's what caught him up. This is where you see imperfection, but he was sitting there, he was challenging that imperfection based on what he was saying here. When you see here, he says, do not Job fear God for naught, meaning internally. Long as he's doing what you see externally, you're going to do for him internally, but he had an internal problem, not an external problem. He actually was fooling Satan on the external part, but he wasn't fooling God when God looking up on his heart. Everybody follow what I'm just did and what I'm just saying. We want to make sure we understand this as we move forward, because it'll help us to show a lot more on what we need to do as we move forward on what we're doing. So we have some people, we getting at what's happening. That's good. Okay, so now let's move forward and go ahead. So now we're looking at the issue. So I want you to put on the side, we're going to put an issue, but I want you to put Miriam and Aaron criticism of Moses. I want you to put Miriam and Aaron criticism of Moses. That was the issue from Numbers. That was the issue here. That was the issue here from Numbers 12:1 down through 10. That was the issue. Now we have to look at the rule. Again, I'm going to explain rule to you in a second, but we want to get some meat here before we get into it. So the rule, we're looking at Miriam and Aaron. They questioned Moses' one authority due to his marriage, which applied to them a blemish. This is what we got to remember. They was questioning Moses' authority because of his marriage, implying a blemish, an imperfection of his judgment. That's what they was doing to him. They was implying the imperfection of his judgment. That's what happened. So when we're looking at this in a better way, their questioning leads to the divine intervention where Miriam would end up being struck later by leprosy as consequences of that. That's how you see this is how this works. So we have to sit there, we picking apart what's going on. So we have to sit there, we have to think outside to really understand what's happening inside. We have to think outside to understand what's happening inside. Watch what happens. We're going to look at something. And so we're going to look at an implication of this in the application of this going down. So this situation, it illustrates how internal rebellion, meaning what happened to Aaron and Miriam. What happened there? I'm going to share it with you because I'm not going to sit there and ask people to try to guess all together. But what was going on here with Aaron and Miriam was envy. So I want you to write that down. What their issue was in Numbers 12:1 through 10 was envy. I want to make sure everybody get that written down before we move forward. Everybody get that written down before we move forward. That Aaron and Miriam eternal rebellion was about envy. It's envy. So I want to make sure you get that. And this was among the leaders who led the divine judgment in the affliction. So they looking at this. So, but it was envy that was driving them. Because looking at what went on, that's why they was being critical, and they needed to find a blemish. They needed to find imperfection in his judgment. And what they did, they thought they found imperfection in his judgment of who he had married. That's what they see he had did. So they sit there and they made judgment on that. So now, as we look over here, you can see this was a direct. So this is a vow, number one, and we're going to look at something a little bit more because this was a direct consequences of divine or Jehovah's intervention based on that. We see this in 9. It says, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. Why? Because they was already violating two laws. Everybody see that? They was violating 2 laws. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear a grudge against thy children, but then you also don't bear false witness. Everybody's seen that. So they violated 2 laws automatically. Has not the Lord spoken only by Moses? Has not he spoken also by us? They violating laws based on that. And this is the problem, that when we eternalize it, we can be doing the same thing. We got to watch those. So as we sit there and we see this happening, this more so now we have to be more focused on what is going on. Why Miriam leprosy was a form of correction, and it was a reminder of Jehovah's authority. That was his authority. So let's look at some recapitalization on this. Let's see something. And we're going to go back over here. We're going to look at Deuteronomy chapter 24. 24. We're going to look at verse, we're going to go to verse 9. And we got to remember something. This is a recapitalization on what I was saying. He's telling you here, he says, remember what the Lord, the Spirit of thy God, did unto Miriam. You see how this is a recapitulation. You being reminded based on envy, based on all what they did. He says, remember what the Spirit of thy God did unto Miriam, by the way, after that they were come forth out of Egypt. He struck her with leprosy. That's now you see a reminder of consequences when you're speaking against Jehovah's leadership. When he had set Moses in leadership position, her and Aaron spake against that. And what they did, they tried to find imperfections based on his judgment, because they said he had married an Ethiopian woman, even though she was from there. But the main thing is she wasn't an Ethiopian. But this is the same thing we have to remember on what we do. What we'll do, we'll sit there and we'll make judgment based on people, but we have to find the imperfection in them. So if they can't find the imperfection in what they talking about and what they teach in truth, what they do, they find the imperfection in you, and then they sit there and say, okay, yeah, look at this person, look what they doing. They do the same identical thing here. They sit there and they look for imperfections in what I do. They can't find imperfection in my teaching, so what they do, they want to talk about, oh, he's doing this, oh, he's selling that, oh, he's doing this, oh, he's doing. They look for imperfections outside of that, because they want to sit there and say, let me show you that he's not who he say he is. I'm telling you, it's the stupidest thing in the world. But this is what people do. This is how people try to do, and this is what gets them in more trouble, because literally this is what catches you up. So let's move a little bit further. We're going to look at something in Wisdom of Solomon 1:6 and move a little bit further, get us better understanding. It says, for wisdom is a loving spirit. Wisdom is a loving spirit, and will not equate a blasphemer of his word, mean a liar, a blasphemer of his word. For God is witness of his ruins. Yeah, because he's going to do it. And a true beholder of his heart, and a hearer of his tongue. This is literally coming. The loving spirit. This is the Spirit of God. This is how he's going to watch. This is how he's going to make sure he pays attention to what's going on with a blasphemer. Because they'll sit there and they're going to blaspheme against the words that you teach. They're going to blaspheme these things. They're going to question God's authority on who he put in position to teach, who put in position to teach his people. And as soon as they start questioning that, what about you? Who are you? What about you? What about this? What about this? Oh, you doing this? Oh, you doing that? You're questioning God's authority. You're not questioning the man's authority. You're questioning now God's authority. And when you're questioning God's authority, what God ended up doing, he ended up striking you. He strike you with things that you don't expect. Because the main thing is, most people don't even know that's even happening to them, because what happened, they thinking everything was cool, and it wasn't. It ended up happening to you because you sat there and you was checking his authority, sitting there saying, okay, how can this guy be the one that's teaching? Is not we doing this better than him? And who is he? Did not he do this? Did not he do that? God heard it, and he corrects it. He corrects this. And that's why he said he would not acquit a blasphemer. He would not acquit a blasphemer for his words. He's not going to let you go of that. He's going to hold you against. He's going to hold that against you. So the same thing is you have people over here where they teach truth. You have other elders, you have other deacons. They teach truth here. And the same thing is what I teach truth. So we all doing the same thing. But you will have people will speak against that person, and they'll speak against me, they'll speak against them, and as they speaking against them, and they sitting there thinking, okay, what about you? What about you? What about you? You're this or you're that. Oh, who do you think he is? Who do you think he is? Who is this? Who is that? What's happened is God is not going to acquit this blasphemer because they put these false accusations there based on envy. So that's why he says he will not acquit the blasphemer words, for God is a witness of his ruin and a true beholder of his heart. So he's going to sit there and a hearer of his tongue. He's going to pay attention to what you're doing, and he's going to hold you accountable for it, and he's going to punish you for it. That's what he's saying. So as we go through here, we get a better understanding why we see where Job's wisdom and its integrity was against Satan accusations, but then we're going to see the folly, the same thing with Miriam and Aaron actions was immediate consequence. So both of these accounts emphasizing the importance of maintaining faith, integrity when faced with accusations. You just keep doing what you're doing. Whether it's external, as with Job, or eternal, as with Miriam and Aaron. Everybody follow me? Job was external. He was outside doing things, but Miriam and Aaron had this envy inside of them that God had to look upon the heart. There was also underscored the serious consequences, questioning the divine leadership and the righteousness of God's judgments. That's why the punishment of Miriam is highlighted, that imperfection and blemish that can be resulted in one's own actions and an attitude that happened with that. And it's not just an external accusation. So both accounts highlight the imperfection and blame that are addressed by JEHOVAH. These are going to be addressed by JEHOVAH. You have many people who do this. But you're seeing the implications, how it happens. So we're not just seeing it here, but it happens outside of here. Not just inside here, it happens outside of here. That's the problem. One of the most dangerous things, and this is something that goes with all of us. You have many of us, and you have people who teach us here. And the same thing is, people might get scared, but people can sit there and look at it any kind of way. The biggest problem people have is where you sit there and you have a teacher of truth, and then they can sit there and their wives, their children, might hold them as a liar. Oh yeah, they this, they that. So they sit there, their wives will hold them as this, their wives will hold them as that, their wives will hold them at all these other things, except a servant of God. They'll sit there and make accusations about that person, except a servant of God. They're going to make all these things about them, except he's a servant of God. So what happens is, God hears it. He will not acquit the blasphemer. That's what he's saying. He's not going to quit him. So even if your wife is not, or your children not in truth, the main thing is God is going to hold them accountable for what they're doing. He's going to hold them because this is one of God's servants. He's one of his servants. So if he's one of his servants, he's going to repay that. That's why none of us need to step in. You have some where they'll sit there and they'll give the teacher, they'll give that pastor, they'll give that person all kinds of heartache, all kinds of pain as they try to come out and they try to teach, and they'll put them through all kinds of hell. So what happens is he hears that blasphemy. This is not talking about people who's part of camps and all that, because they teach Christianity. They talking about a whole nother God. So I'm not talking about them. I'm not speaking about them. I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about people who's teaching truth according to Bible. And when they sit there and they do these things, they hold these men and say, oh no, what about him? What about him? He's this, he's that, he's this. They're going to make all these accusations to justify, to give them a hard time, or to make statements about them. What God does, he holds that. He holds that word of that blasphemer. And what he ended up doing, he builds that to where either he will come at you right then, where he will strike you, or he will save it, and then you will get one big lump, and he'll let you get deep into your sin, and then he decide to do what he gonna do, and then nobody can actually get you out of it. He can't get you. You can't get out of it on his little ones as well as his big ones. Can't nobody save you but God. But this is the reason why many people, it's a good thing and it's not a good thing, and it's been very upfront with you. It's a good thing to be married to a teacher of God, and it's not a good thing to be married to a teacher of God. It's a catch-22, because when you speak against them, and you speak against them in certain ways, what God is doing, he's looking at you as a blasphemer, especially if you're speaking about him in the wrong way. He's going to hold that against you. That's why it's so important when they sitting there doing it, and same thing vice versa. God is not going to hold that teacher, that man, innocent. If he's doing something incorrectly, he is actually going to punish him even worse. So we have to remember, it's a catch-22. So when you sit there and you giving this man heartache, and you're giving him pain, you're giving him all these things as he's trying to sit there and he's trying to push out the word, God is going to hold you accountable. Same thing vice versa. If he's sitting there, he's going to put himself in a position to where he can sit there and he call himself going to rule over you certain ways. He's going to say these things. Oh, you're going to be this, you're going to be that, you're going to be this. He's going to hold him accountable as a blasphemer. And he's going to see that because he sees that you're in this position, and now you want to use that position to rule over or to sit there to try to pass judgment on somebody. When you shouldn't be doing that. You should be telling people how to get into the kingdom of God, what's required of them. So this is one of the biggest things you got to remember on that. So as we understand that, both accounts is how imperfections and blame are addressed by JEHOVAH. So what Job narrates shows this external testing by Satan, while on Miriam and Aaron demonstrates the consequences for eternal rebellion, but it all ties to envy. So both of these, they underline the importance of faithfulness and integrity when you're faced with accusations and judgment that goes on. That's what happens. So when we look at this and we look at Job 1 and 6, we understand that the foundational law, 1 and 6, it tells us, the foundational law that's tied to this, we have to understand how this actually works. So foundational law can be found. We're going to find this right here. And we're going to find it, and this is a reincitement, Deuteronomy. We're going to look at 19:15. 19:15, it tells us this. It says, one witness, it tells you right here, it's clear. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity. One witness should not rise up against a man for any iniquity, or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth, at the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, shall this matter be established. So this is another problem. This is why I say it's not good for a husband and wife to be arguing and calling names and going back and forth when they saying all these things, because that thing has to be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. 2 or 3 witnesses, this has to happen. If it don't, then you're wasting your time. Because when you sitting there saying this man is committing sin, and you don't have no witness to sit there to say that, but you just throwing that accusation there, you're actually doing this right over here. You're being a blasphemer. He's not going to acquit you for it. This same thing, vice versa, even the man accusing her. So it doesn't matter which way it goes. He's going to hold you accountable, because it's saying one witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or any sin, in any sin that sinneth, at the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, shall the matter be established. This is why so many of us is going to miss kingdoms. The kingdom of God, we're going to miss it based on this, because most of us want to cause sin and say this one sinned or this one committed iniquity based on personal matters, and just want to sit there to say something, being a blasphemer. That's making you a blasphemer. And that's telling you right over there, you're a blasphemer of your own words, because it's telling you the same thing here. Everybody understand that? Everybody understand what's going on? This is why it works. So this is why it's so important to understand exactly what you're doing. That's why it says it's better sometimes to just don't say anything. Not to say nothing. It's real simple not to say a word. Because when you speak against a person, and that's going to invoke that. That's why he says heaven and earth is recording against you. So these principles echo the heavenly courts that's seen in multiple being presented themselves. Let's see as we understand the Levitical laws and we see the commandments in honor and God's respect. Let's look at another part here. We'll see this in Exodus chapter 22 and 22 and 28. We'll see it here. Watch what happens. But this here is going to go into a special way where we need to really find out. Because it's saying, thou shalt not revile the gods. Understand what they're saying. Thou shalt not revile the gods. You see that with a little g. But don't you revile them. And it says, nor curse a ruler of thy people. But you see how this is being placed. I'm going to shut there. I'm going to put this other one with it, where we can understand better what's going on. Let's put this over there in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 16. And we're going to understand a little bit more. And this is why so many of us are going to miss kingdoms. And I like to make sure people understand that, because as a position, as I'm being like a counselor to you, I really want you to be upfront about what's going on. That's why I'm very upfront with you, because I don't want to sugarcoat nothing to you. It says, thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shall thou stand against the blood, the lifestyle of thy neighbor. I am the Spirit of God. I am the Lord. We have many people who do this. Many people who do this. They'll judge you based on nothing. Just to say something, just to justify what they do. Just to justify what they do. So what they're going to do, they're going to say things about you. But you being a talebearer among thy people. And then you even sit there and try to push that against somebody else. That don't make any sense. And it's telling you the same thing even with these gods. These gods, see, with little g, it's not we're saying ye are gods. It's not saying that. It's talking about you should not revile. You should not revile. This is a clear citation on what's happening. You should not revile the gods. That you said you should not revile the gods, nor curse thy people. So we have to look at the issue in the primary citation in understanding the prohibition of reviling the gods, the cursing and the rulers of thy people. So the term gods with the smaller g, we're going to refer to idols. So this understanding requires us to explore the implications of this such directive, to where we can see within the context of law to understand better what these gods are. We have to understand that. Because here in the law, you see right here, in the law of Exodus, it's saying don't revile them. Don't revile them. But we got to understand what that means. Because this addresses the respect behavior towards people, religious beliefs, their practices. Particularly when you're talking about their false gods, as well as you respect this civic authority. When you are in places and you go in there where it's a bunch of people and you sit there and you see these gods, and same thing, one of the famous places you can go into donut shops, especially in California. You go in donut shops, you'll see they're owned by Asians. The first thing you're going to run into is Buddha. Got Buddha. Somebody got a donut sitting right there by Buddha. And people will sit there and they'll say, you want to tell you what? And then they proceed to tell these Asian people about Buddha. Why? What's the purpose of telling them about Buddha? You see some of them going to Indian restaurants, you'll see Vishnu. You see Vishnu there. And the craziest thing is, the ones who doing Buddha, the ones who doing Vishnu, they don't try to push that belief on you. They don't try to push that. The only one who do that is Christians. Christians in camps. They'll try to push ideology on you. They'll try to push some theology on you. They're the only ones that really do that. And people say, what about Mormons? Mormons are Christians. Jehovah's Witnesses are Christians. This is what it's saying. But it's saying don't revile the gods. So when we understand this, it applies to the statute, and we need to consider the broader understanding of the context of these social norms at the times of these idols. So the same thing as what it tells us. I want to show you something. And we're going to look at Exodus. We're going to look at Exodus 20 and verse 3 to get a better understanding. Idols, what these guys are. It says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. It's talking about you. It's talking about you. But watch what he says in verse 4. And thou shalt not make. You shall not make. Because he's clarifying what he's going to do. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is heaven above, or that is in earth beneath, or that in the waters under the earth. That's what they do. That's what they do. So we see this, and we see the same thing as we're looking at Leviticus chapter 19, looking at verse 4, to build on it, to understand what's going on. And we'll see more so. It says, turn ye not unto idols. Don't turn to them. Nor make to yourselves molten gods. You see, don't do this. I am the Spirit of your God. Don't do that. But you see the same thing. People do this. They do this even by going into churches. They do this by going into these camp places. They do these things by doing that because they want to sit there, and no matter how they look at it, they done turn to these places. They done turn to these places, and they get caught up into this. Let me show you something more. Let's go a little bit deeper with this. We're going to look at Deuteronomy chapter 12, looking at verse 3, saying the same thing. In verse 3 it says, and you shall overthrow their altars and break their pillars and burn their groves with fire, and they shall hew down the graven images of their gods and destroy the name of them out of that place. But what is it saying? It's not saying you go in there and do this in their place. You don't bring that into your house. So the rulers of thy people this refers to, and it lets you know that it's telling you about leaders among the Israelites, the rulers of thy people. That's what it's telling you, the rulers of thy people. I'll show it to you. Let me show you. And it's telling you right there. It says, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Meaning their judges, their teachers, their elders. These are figures of authority, the ones who's teaching you and getting you to understand the law and what you need to know. So understanding the foundational law emphasizes the respect of other people, one, practices. You respect their practices, even though we as another people, we ourselves are forbidden to participate in idol worship. We're not to sit there to go inside these places and sit there and profess all these things and, oh, we this, we're that, we're that, we're this. You guys are this. No, it's not to do that. You need to know what's required. So then the statute is like to serve and promote peaceful and you're going to avoid unnecessary conflict with neighboring people and their own customs. Because he already told you this here. It's telling you right here. It says, thou shalt have no other gods before me, before him. Thou shalt not make any unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is heaven above, or that is the earth beneath, or that is in the waters under the earth. So we're not to even do those. We're not to even do those. He reiterated this once before. He did this the same thing in Deuteronomy. We're going to sit there and look at something. In Deuteronomy, we're going to look at chapter 5, and we're going to look at 7 through 8. He says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. You can see this reiteration that's happening here. This is a foundational law that established this prohibition of idol worship for who you are, for Hebrews, seeking to be in part of the Israelite communities. This is what this is doing. This is why this is so serious, where we can understand what's happening. But then what we're doing, we're trying to understand more so what's going on with Job and Job and Moses. We're going to get to a better understanding, because now as we're going into this legal material, understanding more so what's happening here. Let's look at a couple of things to get a better understanding here. We're going to sit there, we're going to look at something. We're going to look at 1932 in Leviticus. 1932. It says, thou shalt raise up before the hoary head in the honor of the face of the old man. M-A-N. So that's man or woman. And fear thy God and desire thy God, I am the Spirit of God. But you have many of them, they hide that. They hide that now. You know why? They dye their hair. They dye it to where you don't see no gray in them. You don't see no gray there. They do that, so what they doing, they hide in wisdom. So you know that's not much wisdom to have if you hide in wisdom. What kind of wisdom do you have and you hide it? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. This is why we have those issues. In Deuteronomy, looking at chapter 17, looking at verse 12, it says, the man that will do presumptuously and will not hearken unto the priest that standeth to minister there before the Spirit of thy God, or unto the judge, unto the teacher, even that man shall die, and thou shalt put away evil from Israel. Yeah, he's telling you right up front what to do. You don't even deal with these people. Because what they want to do, they don't want to hearken to it, but they want to tell you more so what's happening. This is why Aaron and Miriam had this issue, because it was based on envy. That's evil. These citations reinforce the principles of respect, honor, those who in positions of authority. So when we look at these citations, and predominantly the eagles that set forth the clear guidelines for behavior towards idols and rulers, this also addresses the need to maintain order and respect within the community and neighboring places. So once we understand the vow and the inheritance, the statutes that ties to the understanding of a vow of inheritance, then we have leaders and judges are seen as inheriting the authority from God, not from man. They're inheriting the authority from God. That's what's going on. So they are stewards of God. They're the justice of the law. So when one person disrespects them, towards it's similar to disrespecting the order that's established by God. That's what actually just happened. So when they come and they challenge your authority, they're not challenging you, they're challenging God's authority. Who are you to sit there to talk about God? Who are you? Who do you think you are? I am a servant of God. Who do you think you are? People will know you by your fruits. People know you by what's coming out of your mouth. People know you by what you're able to teach, to show you how you can go through this Bible. Not sitting there just going through a verse and then you proceed to talk for the next 45 minutes. Don't have nothing to do with that. So when you're looking at this recapitalization of laws, it can be found also. I'm going to show you another place where you can also find it. You're going to see something where Romans breaks this down for you. We want to see that. We're going to look at Romans chapter 13. We're going to look at verse 1 and 2. To get a better understanding, it says, and let every soul, watch what happens, let every soul be subject unto higher powers, for there is no power but of God. There is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained by God. Now you see what's going on. That's why people sit there, and I sit there, I claim no authority of anything. Any authority I say, that goes to God. Don't come from me, that goes to God. But what people will do, they'll sit there and they will judge or second guess me. That's fine. Because you're not checking my authority, you're checking God's authority. That's why I'm cool with that. I don't have a problem, because that actually makes you have to deal with God on his level. Which that's something, the level you can't deal with. You know, as soon as people sit there and say, yeah, okay, now who do you think you are? Now you think, how, my pastor have all this information, and now you saying he didn't tell my pastor, but he told you? Well, you can take it any kind of way you want to. I know what I teach. I don't teach in the building, one. But then two, I can show you how to walk through this Bible. So we see these things that happen here, and watch what happens in verse 2. We're going to see something. And we're going to look at verse 2 in Romans chapter 13, verse 2. It tells us. We're going to look and put it in green. It says, whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God. So just like I said, you're not resisting me. You're doing it to God. So my thing is to keep doing what I'm supposed to do and let you do what you do, and then you come a blasphemer to God, and then God takes care of you. That's how this works. And it says, they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. You see the point. So everybody see the point that I'm making. Meaning, it doesn't matter. The same thing with Aaron and with Miriam. It don't matter, same as what Satan was doing. It don't matter. You all going to receive damnation. Because what they do, they speak against something that was ordained by God. And that was an ordinance from God. So you have no reason, no choice to sit there. That's why I said sometimes it's better just don't say anything. Don't say anything. Because once you do, you're putting yourself in a bad position. So when you resist that, you do more damage to yourself. Let's build on this and this understanding. This is why we're looking at these same things on what happens, what people do. Because Satan was challenging one thing, and Miriam and Aaron challenged something else. But watch what happens. We're seeing what's going on here. So we're going to sit there and we'll see. We're going to look at Titus chapter 3, but we're going to look at 1 and 2. The same thing. The same thing. Let me put this. And you see it here. It says, put them in mind to be subject to the principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be ready to every good work, to speak evil of no man. That's why he's saying that to speak evil of no man, to be no brawlers, but gentle, showing all meekness unto all men. Because you don't know who you are. He said you could be entertaining angels unaware. You could be entertaining messengers unawares. You don't know who you're entertaining. You don't know who you're in front of. So with this, you're showing meekness. You're showing this with all men. But then you have a respect to authority when men are speaking according to the Bible, the law of authority. You don't get caught up. This is one of the best things you don't want to get. You don't want to get caught up. Because many people are going to get caught up. And seeing, just like you said, he don't acquit that. He's going to remember that what you did. He's going to hold you accountable for what you did. People say, well, I did that a while back. I guess he'll forgive me. No, he didn't acquit that. He's going to hold you accountable for it. So that's why I say it's easier when you do that. It's easier when you just don't say anything. Let's look at something in Wisdom of Solomon. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 6, looking at verse 1 and 3. We're going to go through 1 all the way through 3. It says, hear therefore, O ye kings, and understand. You see what it's saying? Learn ye to be teachers of the ends of the earth. That's what we should be doing. It says, give ear to the rule of the people, and glory this eternal power in the multitude of nations, and the power is given to you. See, this glory, that's the eternal power given to you of the Creator, and the sovereignty from the highest, who shall try your works, search out your counsel. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. This is why I should have no problem sitting there bringing forth his word, because I don't need to glorify myself sitting there, oh yeah, you come to me, you hold on me, you do this to me, you do that. I don't need to do that. I don't need you to give me glory in anything. Anything. It's no reason to. All glory belongs to the Most High. All glory goes to him. All knowledge comes from God. This is why it's so important to understand, but most men want that glory. They want that. They want that themselves. And that's something I don't seek. Tell you same thing in Sirach chapter 10, looking at verse 1 through 3. It says, a wise judge, a wise teacher, a wise judge, a wise teacher will instruct his people. And the government of a prudent man is well ordered. And the teacher of the people is himself. so are his officers. In what manner of man the ruler of a city, these people, are all they that dwell therein. An unwise king, this unwise ruler, destroyeth his people. That's what they'll do. But though the prudence of them which are in authority in the city shall be inhabited. This is going to happen without being said. But we want to understand what this counsel is and why it's running this way. It's so important for us to understand exactly what is going on. Why it's so important. What is going on? You see this also in Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 2 through 4. It says, I counsel thee to keep the king's commandment. I counsel thee, in that I regard of the oath of God. Be not hasty to go out of his sight, no. And stand not in the evil things, no. For he doeth whatsoever pleases him. Where the word of the king is, there is power. And who may say unto him, what doest thou? You see how this goes. We have to understand when people want to become these idols, they want people to look up to them. They want people to hold to what they're saying. This isn't good. This is not good when we do this, because you want to hold on to an idol. And as we hold on to these idols, we put ourselves in bad positions. And many times we put ourselves in the worst positions always. So when we look at this in Exodus chapter 2, 22, verse 28, it says, thou shalt not revile the gods, nor cause thy ruler of thy people. So this instruction not to revile them likely to serve in a purpose, promoting peace and openly reviling the idols in other nations, Israelites who avoid unnecessary conflict. Peaceful relations. Respect others' belief. You ain't got to go get caught up in their belief, but you teach your people about the beliefs of others. You teach them about the beliefs of others. You don't go in their place of worship and that they doing it. It's false. You don't go in there to cause all kind of ruckus. Most of them don't even invite you. Yeah, some might have you come there to where they can understand where you're coming from, to open up what they're doing. That's one thing. But many of them like to go there and they like to cause uproars. That's what they seek to do. You see them, they do it relentlessly on TV. They do it relentlessly. You see them on YouTube. But it also goes to show you some of the biggest people, some of the biggest camps is they thrive on controversy. You can go there and look and you see everybody looking. You got a lot of these people who looks also. They want to sit there, oh, they check this person, they check that person. You want to see that. But why? What's the purpose? It's the same thing every time. Like, oh yeah, you're the people, you're the people, you're the people. That don't mean anything. Not as though the word of God is taking out effect, for they are not all Israel. So the ones who sit there and get enjoyment out of this, get enjoyment out of watching people kiss their feet, getting enjoyment out of people so-called knowing the Bible, which they don't, knowing the Bible, and then they get on somebody else. It's a Christian getting on another Christian. Because all camps are Christians. Every one of them. They tell you they're not, but they 100% a Christian. They have the same identical beliefs. Then they go a step further because they believe in spaceship. They don't call them UFOs. They call them IFOs, identified flying objects. They believe that Supermans and Aquamans are real gods. They take it a step further. And the main thing is we have more of our people watch this. We have more of our people get into this. And this is why so many people have problems. Because they as they do it, they want to look at their beliefs in one way, but the main thing is you let their beliefs be their belief. But what you do, you teach your people about the beliefs and practices that they do that they don't get caught up in. So this underscores the necessity of respecting the religious practices of others. So it's not to where we got to go beat down their doors, go in there where they practice that worship at. But what we do, we teach our people. So we teach them here. We teach our people what they need to understand and understand what's going on. That's why I sit there and tell people the same thing in here. When they come over here and impede and they want to put in silliness in the comments, I tell you in a heartbeat, they do it one more time, I say, hey, delete them from the channel. That's why I don't have a problem with that. You take that belief and you take that belief elsewhere. You're not going to use that belief over here. Only time you use that belief is if we open up the door to you to do that. Other than that, you don't do anything. So when we're looking at this extensive legal material, which includes the broader context of Job, where Satan ruled as an accuser and to test these believers supposed to be righteous. So let's look at something and watch what happens. We're going to look at something. We're going to go from 8 to 12 and get a better understanding. So in Job chapter 1 verse 8, we're going to go down to 12. It says, and the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. But it's a question mark. So he's not saying that, but he's asking the question. He's not saying that, he's asking the question. One that feareth God and he escheweth evil, do he really do that? He's not saying this is Job. But many of us take that saying, yeah, this is what he said about Job. That's not what it said, because he's questioning that. He's questioning that. And Satan answered unto the Lord, said, doeth not God fear, do not Job fear God for naught? Do not he do this because you do that? So he asked him a question back. This question was asked back. It says, has not thou made a hedge about him and about his house and all about that he have on every side? So he's saying, yeah, look what you did. He said, this is what you did for Job. He's questioning that without sitting there asking, did God do it? He's questioning God, saying, did not you do this? You did this. He doing something, never found out truly what happened or what's going on. This is why we have to look at it and go through the analysis of this and really understand what is actually happening here. And it says, thou hast blessed, and wisdom was given to him, the work of his hands, and all his substance is increased in the land. Okay, see, now he's making a bold-faced accusation that it's not even true. You blessed him with the work of his hands, and the substance is increased in the land. He's making a bold-faced accusation that's not even true. He's sitting there saying this is what God did. But watch what he says. He goes more. He says, put forth thy hand now, put forth thy power, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. He's sitting there, he's making all these accusations against God, against JEHOVAH. There's something JEHOVAH didn't do. JEHOVAH just asked him a question. That's all he did. He says, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. He just asked him the question. And Satan said all this other stuff. Didn't check it, but he asked. Satan just went off on everything else. Went off on a whole nother tangent. You see it. You see it right there. Actually, I go down the way you can see the whole thing. You can see it right there. Because he's asking him right plain as day. There's none like him in the earth. The reason why Job was doing it in Satan. Satan blaming it on God. And Job was doing Satan. He said, he's a perfect and upright man, one that fears God. How do he fear God? And he's sitting there sacrificing animals, saying they may have cursed God in their hearts. Think about that. You know what I'm talking about? You have all this going on, and he's telling you, Job did this for his kid. He says, may my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. And he already knows they aren't even supposed to be doing that. But let's look at something. But he's sitting there, but Satan making these hard accusations to God, saying what God did. And he said, put forth thy hand and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, he said, wait a minute, hold up a second. Hold up 1 second. Hold it 1 minute. Satan, you need to know something. He said, I just asked a question. I asked a plain question. He said, but I need you to remember something. Remember, all that he hath is in thy power. All that he has down there, that's your stuff. That's not my stuff. That's your stuff. Only putting out forth that power, Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. He can do anything he wanted to do because that was in his power. This proved the point. This proved the point. You see it here. You see, he did this to Yahushua. And the devil taking him up in Luke chapter 4, looking at verse 5, the devil taking him up on a high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment's time. And the devil said unto him, all this power I will give thee in the glory, in the eternal power of them. For that is delivered unto me. He has it. In whomsoever I give it. If thou wilt therefore worship me, all shall be thine. So what is Satan talking about? What is he saying? How is it that he's so worried about what God's saying he's doing, and God telling him, no, this is all your stuff. All the kingdoms of this world, of this eternal world, this temporary world, is in your power. But you trying to sit there and put it on me. I don't get it. This citation fits even the extension of legal concerns in the duty and privileges of the Levitical priesthood that you see here. Let me show you something. We're gonna look at Numbers chapter 3, looking at verse 10. 3 and verse 10. Look at something. And you'll see it here. It says, and thou shalt appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall wait on their priests and the priest office, and the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. Legal. We're going to go a little bit deeper on this. To understand the legal problems that this was posing. So when you're looking at 6, it says, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. So the same thing, Satan comes, but you can see the legal that's demonstrated in the heavenly court, the procedures of judicial rules of Satan. Judicial rules of Satan. I want to show you how this is working. Actually, we can do it over here, and then I can go over there and pull it. We're going to look at Zechariah, and I want to show you something. Zechariah chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. And it says right here, let me take this up some. So it's telling you 3, 1 and 2. And we're going to see something here. It says, and he showed me Joshua. Showed you Joshua, Yahushua. Saying the same thing. And it says on the high priest before the angel of the Lord. And Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. I want to make sure that everybody had their pencils and paper ready, because I'm going to show you some things to where, just like I said, it's going to get really hairy. And we want to make sure we understand them as a whole. We want to make sure we understand these things as a whole. So if you don't, I'm going to tell you right now, you will get lost if you don't write them down. So we want to make sure that we have this. 1 second. So I'm trying to give everybody a chance to get that there. So just making sure you have your paper and pencils ready as we go through this. So we're going to look at this in a legal way to understand what's going on. So we see this here, but we're going to look at verse 2. And the Lord said unto Satan, the Spirit of God said unto Satan, the Lord rebuke thee, O Satan, even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. So who had chosen Israel rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire. So we want to understand something. We want to understand a couple of things. We want to understand this spiritually as well as what we see on the front. So we have to look at the legal aspects of this prominent part. So it's the same thing which we see in this same connotation over here when we're looking at Numbers chapter 12, verse 1 through 10. We're looking at the same thing. These are the legal aspect of prominent consequences of rebellion against God-appointed prophets, emphasizing the legal and social order within Israel. So this vow is also part of the inheritance, which you seeing that's going on over here. People sitting there, well, I don't get it. Don't worry, I'm gonna show it to you because we're gonna make sure everybody understands it. And as we're gonna look at this all together, so we're gonna look at Job 31. We're gonna look at Job 31. And we're going to look at verse 1. It says, I made a covenant with my eyes, with my understanding. Why then shall I think upon a maid? Yeah, that's actually a good question. That is actually a very good question. Because that inheritance is looking at something that's really important. And what we want to understand is more. So we're looking at the authority of leadership that Moses has, and we got to understand that. So we're going to be running two different sides all the time. We're going to be looking at that. So let's make sure we're going to pick up right now. We're going to look at Numbers 27. We want Numbers 27. We want 18, and we're going to go down to 23. 18. We're going to go down 27, 18 to 23. Now watch what happens. I want you to make sure you watch what happens so what we can understand the divine order that's getting ready to go down. And it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, take thee Joshua, the son of Nun, which is the same one that we're seeing over here. And it says, the son of Nun, a man whom is the Spirit, a man whom is the Spirit, and lay hands upon him, and set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight, so they can see this happening. And thou shalt put some thy honor upon him, that all the congregation of the children of Israel may be obedient, and shall stand before Eleazar in the priest, and shall take counsel from him after the judgment of Urim before the Spirit of God. At the word shall I go out, and the word shall come in, both he and all the children of Israel with him, even all the congregation. And Moses did as the Spirit of God commanded him, and took Joshua and set him before Eleazar the priest, before all the congregation, and laid his hands upon him, and gave him charge, and the Lord commanded by the hands of Moses. People saying, I don't get it. You just read it, because this is what actually happened over here. You just read that. What we just read just happened over here. What we just read also happened over here in Zechariah. What we just read, we seen in Numbers, and we seen in Numbers 12, and we also seen in Zechariah. We also see the same thing in Job. You just seen all three. Reason why we have to understand exactly how the Bible runs. Meaning this. As we go through here and we see this scene is being recalculated in the concept and the understanding of justice that we see, that's one main thing here. I want to pull this up. I want to show you something. Let's see if we grab this one. Let's look at Daniel. I want to show you something in Daniel. Daniel chapter 7, looking at verse 10. Looking at verse 10. And it says, in a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. 1,000 ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgments were set, and the books were open. Exactly what's going on. And the books were open. So as we look at this recapitalization, as what we were doing, the same thing with Deuteronomy. Let me see, can I get to it? Well, I got to go back over to Deuteronomy 24. Let me go back over here. I need some more Bibles up. That's what I do. 8 and 9. So the same thing we're going to look. What happened? So the main thing is we're looking at a recapitalization of Moses' leadership and the severe consequences for rebellion is what we're looking at. And it says, take heed in the plague of leprosy, that thou observe diligently and do accordingly to all that the priests, the Levites, shall teach you, as I command them, so shall ye observe to do. Remember what the Spirit of God, thy God, did unto Miriam by the way, after that they were come forth out of Egypt. Now we're seeing the whole logistics of the picture on what actually happened. They was questioning his authority. They did not question his authority on what he's telling everybody what to do. What they questioned his authority about what he was teaching. They questioning that. So we got to understand what's happening when we do this. The same thing you see here. And you see the same thing here. We look at Wisdom of Solomon 1:1 through 1:4. It says, love righteousness, that ye be teachers, judges of the earth. And think of the Lord, think of the Creator, what is good, with a good heart, and with simplicity, with a simplistic heart. Seek him, for he will be found of them that tempt him not, and showeth himself unto such as not to distrust him. For the forward thoughts separate from God. You see what's going on. For the forward, you're going to be separated from God. It's automatic. These things is automatic. And it says, in his power, when he is tried, reproveth the unwise. This is what's going to happen. This is all automatic things that happen. And for the malicious soul, wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in the body that is subject unto sin. This is interesting. This becomes extremely, 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 extremely interesting. So when the days of the Lord, they came to present themselves before the Spirit of God, and Satan came also. We're seeing what's going on. The forward thoughts separate you from God. Let's build on this a little bit more. Let's build on this a little bit more. Build on this a little bit more. A little bit more. And we're going to see what's happening. We're going to see something in Sirach and build on this. Sirach chapter 7, looking at verse 29. Build on it. It says, fear the Lord with all thy soul and reverence his priests. Interesting. So when they feared the Lord, where respect should have been given, they didn't. Because you can see over here, Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman. They found something that they can push. They found something that they was going to push to disrespecting. This is why it's so important to watch exactly what was happening, and we see envy was always there. Envy was there. In Ecclesiastes chapter 10, if we're looking at verse 20, it says, curse not the king, curse not the ruler, curse not the teacher, nor thy thought, and curse not the rich in thy bedchamber. For the bird of the air shall carry the voice, and that which have wings shall tell the matter. Yeah, exactly what's going to happen. So when we look at these similarities, we understand what's happening. When it says, he showed me Joshua the high priest, standing before the messengers of the Lord, and Satan is standing on the right hand to resisting. We see this. Verse 2, it tells us. And the Lord said unto Satan, the Lord rebuked thee, O Satan. Even the Lord hath chosen Jerusalem, hath chosen Israel, rebuke thee. For it is not the brand pluck out the fire. We keep sitting there and we seeing that. And I keep on highlighting. because we need to really understand what's going on here, what's happening in here. Because we need to understand fully the application, the foundational laws that is found in this verse here. It helps us out. So we're going to start building on this and get a better understanding on what's happening. Because we're going to get down to this, we're going to find out it's 3 issues that's found in here. It's 3 issues that's found in there. And that's our key to understand everything on why this happens. And why this happened in Job and why this happened in Numbers. So let's build a little bit more on law to get a better understanding. In Deuteronomy chapter 7, looking at verse 8, we're going to get a better understanding. It says, but because the Lord loved you, he loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your father, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh, the king of sin of Egypt. He did this. But we have to look at still the legal matter, of this. This legal matter highlights JEHOVAH, what he's willing to do, and to forgive and to rescue. We got to look at the legal matter of this. And understanding how this all works and finding out why it goes this way. In Exodus chapter 34, looking at verse 6, I believe it's 6 and 7, it said, and the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, yes, he did, the Lord God, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of thy God, merciful, yes, and gracious, yes, long-suffering, yes, and abundant in goodness and truth, yes, yes, keeping mercy for thousands, yes, you don't see millions, no, you don't see billions, no, you see thousands, forgiving the iniquity, yes, including transgression, yes, and sin, yes, and will by no means clear the guilty, no, not going to happen, visiting the iniquities upon the fathers, yes, upon the children, yes, upon the children's children, yes, unto the 3rd and the 4th generation. Yes, yes, yes. So we see the extensive legal matter of this case. We see it. It's right there before you. But we got to find out more so is over here. Let me show you something. We're going to go back to Leviticus in 19:2. Everybody okay? Everybody all right? Making sure everybody okay. And we see Leviticus 19:2. It says, speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel. Speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, and say unto them, ye shall be separated. We got to be separated. I don't care how we look at it, how we flip, we got to be separated, holy. For the Spirit of your God am holy. He's separated. So we have to be this way. We have to. Because our vow depends on it. Our vow is seen in Numbers. Our vow is known in Numbers. This is why you see me going through law before we get into this issue that's over on the other side. In Numbers 6:24, we find out a little bit more. And keep this in mind. We're going to start here and we're going to go down. 6:24, and we're going to go down to 26. It says, the Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. This is what he does. This is what he does. So our vow of inheritance is what we see. Our vow of inheritance is what we see. But you see the same thing, this recapitalization on what I said. We see it here in Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 3. You can see how we're running through Scripture, and it's saying the same thing. It says, then the Lord thy God, the Spirit of thy God, will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee. That's why we got to understand this verse 2. He had compassion upon thee, and will return and gather you from all the nations, whither the Spirit of thy God has scattered thee. And we still haven't figured out over here. We still haven't figured out over here. That's interesting. And what we got to do is one thing. We're going to look at Wisdom of Solomon chapter 3, verse 9. I want to show you this before we get into it. In Wisdom of Solomon chapter 3, looking at verse 9, it says, they that put their trust in him shall understand truth. That was your key. So if you put your trust in God, you're going to understand truth. Did they do it, or did they do it? And such as be faithful in love and shall abide with him, for grace, mercy is to his saints, and he have cared for his elect. So again, I'm gonna sit there and see. I'm gonna see if I can put this up there. 1 second. And we have that here. So the same thing is what we're looking at. So I'm going to switch this to where you can see it. So right now we're on my iPad. We're on my iPad. And the main thing is, we're right here at verse 3. Right there at verse 3. So I want to make sure that everybody see what's getting ready to happen. And everybody can hear me okay, correct? Everybody can hear me? Everybody can hear me. I just want to make sure everybody can hear. Because what we want to do, we have 3 issues here. We have 3 issues here. So one, we want to explain what the term rule mean. What the term rule mean. So we're going to understand that. So as we understand rule, we get a better understanding of what we need to do. So rule, when I be saying rule, you'll know what I'm saying. So when I say rule, I'll provide more clear, authoritative stance by which actions, behaviors are really measured within Scripture. So they offer the basis for judgment. They offer resolution. They offer disputes or issues. So this the guide, the application of the law to specific situations, and they help to assure constant understanding. So when you see rule, and I say rule, that's what I mean by that. That's what I mean by that. So now we're going to look at an issue again. We're going to see the issue here. And this is why I didn't, I keep on checking it. So it's telling you right here, it says, and the Lord said unto Satan, the Spirit of God rebuked thee, O Satan. Even, you see it right here. Let me put it right here. Because I'm right here. That's where I am. He said, the Spirit of God rebuked thee, O Satan. Even the Lord hath chosen Jerusalem, rebuked thee. Is not a brand plucked out of the fire? Is not he picked out of the fire? So I'm going to show you something, and we're going to look at something. So let me move some of my stuff here. And sit there and see if I can do this a little bit better. So now what we want to do, we want to look at something. So I want you to mark in your Bibles. I want you to underline brand, plucked, and fire. Those are your 3. Those are your 3. Because I'm going to tell you what they mean. We're going to tell you what they mean. Now, what I want to do, we're going to look at 1. and one brand telling you spiritually is unbelief. Is unbelief. I want to make sure everybody got that. And well, just like everybody know, I'm left-handed, so my writing is not going to be to a whole lot of people's satisfaction. That I know. But I just say, just roll with me. Just roll with me, cause I'm left-handed, and so I know it's not gonna be to everybody taste. I get that. So we looking at this, and we're gonna look at two. So we want to understand what two is. Also, we want to know what two is. So two, we're looking at plucked. So we're gonna put that there. We want to know what plucked is. What it spiritually represents. What do it spiritually represent? In plucked, it spiritually represents a couple of things. It can be beguile, or it can be deceived. It can be either one. So make sure you have that. And then we have fire, and everybody know what fire is. Actually, I don't know why. So we want to know what fire is. And this is going to tell you about desire. So we have that. So we have those three there. And we want to understand really how this actually works. So now we have those. So now we have brand, unbelief. We have beguile, or it could be deceived. And then we have the desire. So everybody had time to get that, because I'm getting ready to take this off the board. I'm getting ready to go back to the Bible. I just want to make sure everybody got that. So let's go back to the Bible. And we're going to finish that out. So now we understand that. So let's make sure we with this. So now we understand what these mean. We understand what rule mean. We understand what brand mean. We understand what pluck mean. We understand what fire mean. We understand what all these things mean. So now let us move forward. So we got to look at the application. One, brand. So we want to understand brand. So let's go here. We're going to highlight brand. We're going to put a yellow thing there. I want to take this off. I'm going to take that one off. So we're looking at brand. So we have to look at the issue first, but we want to understand brand, meaning brand is unbelief. Brand is unbelief. So Joshua the high priest stand accused by Satan, representing one thing, that it was being resisted by the opposition to righteousness. So when we look at brand, it's telling us about unbelief, or the spiritual impurity in this need of cleansing. That's what Satan is claiming. So Joshua is a brand plucked out of the fire, showing despite his spiritual impurity and past belief, he is chosen to be delivered by JEHOVAH. So we got to look at this, how it's emphasizing JEHOVAH can save and purify those in a state of unbelief or spiritual impurity, which that's what he was, spiritual impurity, highlighting his divine mercy and redemption, what was going on. So when we look at this, in the conclusion of understanding brand, unbelief, plucked from the fire, it provides how those states of spiritual danger or unbelief or impurity can be redeemed and purified by JEHOVAH. He says he's not going to clear the guilty. He's not clearing the guilty. But he can forgive you of it. Keep that in mind. We got plucked also. We got plucked. So we want to understand plucked. Green. Plucked. We know what that means now. You can be beguiled or deceived. So now we're looking again at the issue. Plucked. It shows of one being rescued from deception or beguilement, technically. So again, we got to look at the rule. The rule. The commandments, statutes, ordinances, judgment. The purpose of this rule is to provide a clear authoritative stance, or this standard, which the action or behavior is going to be measured. So this offers the judgment and resolution for this dispute or this issue. So it guides this application that we see for these specific situations, ensuring to assist the understanding spiritually where they can be plucked, and understand what this is all about. Indicate the main thing we were looking. Indicate being saved from a state of deception and being saved of a state of spiritual endangerment by being beguiled. This is what he's saying. This is what he's saying over here. So when we look at this here, we understand a little bit more. So Joshua was in the position of the high priest under the accusation, illustrated how he, representing the people, was a risk of being beguiled or deceived by sin and Satan accusations. That's what he was doing. That's what he was doing. Satan was standing at the right hand resisting him. So we see this. So we see this intervention where Joshua was plucked out. He was plucked out of the fire. You see it? It's right in front of you. But it's telling you the intervention of rescuing the individuals from deception and spiritual peril. So being plucked out from the fire, it's telling us that it's signified through JEHOVAH. It's done through JEHOVAH intervention that can be delivered from a state of deception and spiritual danger. And your key here is why it's being said that way is your last one is right there. Fire. Fire. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Interesting. This symbolizes the desire responsible for trials and temptations that will prove and test your faith. So again, purpose of rule to provide a clear authoritative standard which actions and behavior can be measured again. We can't keep forgetting that, where this offer the basis of judgment, the resolution of disputes and issues. We can't ever remove that. So it guides us in the application of the law, specific situations, to ensure constant understanding. Spiritually, we got to understand what is going on. So the fire is what the desire can lead us to spiritual sin or spiritual in danger of not to overcome. So understanding that the fire with Joshua is being plucked, signifying the same thing to what we got to remember. What holds on to what we better get an understanding on why we have to look at what's been happening the entire time. This is spiritually showing us what's going on. This intense trial, this desire that leads to spiritual downfall. So when we look at this application and understanding he's rescued from the fire shows JEHOVAH power to save from this consuming desire that really would have led him to an unbelief and deception. That's all he's saying right here. So understanding what was going on here, as you see, it's highlight this ability to save overwhelming temptation. So when we see this in this whole conclusion, he says, and he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel, this messenger of the Lord, and Satan standing also on the right hand, to resist him. And the Lord said unto Satan, the Lord rebuke you, O Satan. Even the Lord hath chosen Israel to rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out, you see, out of the fire? That's why he's doing that. That's why he's asking him that question. That's why he's asking him the question. So we see this underscores the purifying what God can do for you. Help us understand this a little bit better. Let's look at something. Let's go to Isaiah. We're going to look at Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 7. Get a better understanding of what's happening. 42 verse 7, it tells us. It says, to open the eyes, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison houses. You see what's going on. It goes on more when we look at Ephesians. Ephesians builds on this to where Paul gives us some clarity here. In Ephesians chapter 2, looking at verse 8 and 9, it tells us. It says, for by grace you are saved through faith. By grace you are saved through faith. And not in that not of yourself, for it is a gift of God. For that Spirit is a gift of God's. Not of works, lest any man should boast. This emphasizing the salvation power, unbelief through grace, this thing that you're receiving of grace, this plucked, this being beguiled and deceived that we see. That can happen to each and every one of us. That we have to make sure we are finding and we following what is the truth, because if not, we can be deceived. We can be deceived very easily. And we see this, it's telling in Colossians chapter 1, verse 13, who have delivered us from the power of darkness. Exactly. Is not the brand plucked out of the fire? Who have delivered us from the power of darkness, who have translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son. This showing you the rescue from deception and spiritual darkness. This builds on what was going on the entire time. This tells us about what we need to be doing, what we need to be learning about all the time. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 4, it says, in whom God of this world have blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel, this glorious message of Christ, of JEHOVAH, who is the image of God, should shine upon them. So he want to restore this power to you. Desire. This desire, it goes upon everything that we look for. And long as we continually do this and we continually move forward about what we're doing, we see something. And it's telling you in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 7, it says that the trial of your faith, exactly what was going on. The trial of your faith being much more precious than of men that perishes. Not gold, men that perishes. It's interesting. Though it be tried with fire, though it be going to be tried with this desire. And that desire I showed to you. Actually, I'm going to go there real quick and I'm going to come back. We're going to go to Luke chapter 4. We're going to look at 5 through 7. We just looked at it. And the devil taking him up onto a high mountain and showing him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment's time. And the devil said unto him, all this power will I give thee, and the glory of them that is delivered unto me, and whomsoever I will give it. If thou therefore will worship me, all shall be thine. He's telling you exactly what's going on. So this is not no secret trip. So we're looking at this, the precious, more precious than of men that perisheth, though it be tried with desire. So it's all right here. Try with desire, but watch what it says. That might be found unto praise and honor in the eternal power, at the appearing of salvation of JEHOVAH. Not some man, not Jesus Christ the man. Salvation of JEHOVAH. This is what it's actually telling you. And you have to remember how this also goes on what's going on. In James chapter 1, verse 4. James 1:14. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust. The only time you're going to be tempted is when you go and you're looking for something else. The only time you're going to blame something on somebody is when you're doing it under your own lust, your own envy. It's the only time you be drawn away from God. I don't care how you look at it, how you flipped it. This is when you go from God, when you're looking at your own lust and entice. Then will the lust have conceived it, bring forth sin, and when it is finished, bring forth death. That is going to happen. That you can't get around. So with those, we understand more so what's happening. We understand this lecture on how you need to piece everything together. Everything was given to you on what need to happen. So what I'm going to do, same as I promised, we're going to go into the Zoom, answer the questions that people might have to help prepare their documentation, prepare their presentation, and hopefully that each and every one understood what's going on. The same thing is on tomorrow morning. We will be looking at the, not this one, we actually looking at another one. We walking in the light. We'll be walking in the light over here. Walking in the light. So we're going to be going through that. So with that, we will be over with that there. So hopefully you understood more so what's happening, but you have to understand the framework on which this was structured under. So with that, we're going to end here, and then we're going to go back in Zoom, and actually besides putting out the Zoom link, I'm going to use the same Zoom link that was given earlier to this morning. You can use the same Zoom link, and your sister Venus can put up the same Zoom link that was used. You can put it here to where you can access the Zoom right after this here. So if she have it, if not, I can resend it. I can resend it to her if she don't have it. And let me see. If I don't see her put it up, I'm going to put it in there. Let me sit there and see. Let me sit and see. I believe that's it. I believe that's it. That we're... oh yeah, she got it. She got it. So what I'm going to also do, I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put that also in this, you're going to see in the description also. Yeah, so you can see it over there. It's also in the description to where you can see it. So just make sure that you come in there, understand what was happening, and we can go from there. So until then, I say to each and every person, until the morning. And we'll be coming into walking in the light. So until then, I say to each and every person, Shalom.